So let's go out to Dove Valley right now. Check in with Broncos beat writer. He writes about all things NFL. Troy Renck of the Denver Post. Hey, Troy.
Hey, guys. What's up?
Not a whole lot.
That's what we're calling you for.
Yeah, you tell us.
Why are you asking us? You're out there. What's up?
What's news?
Well, no fights again today. Very productive.
Damn.
Very productive joint practices. The Niners. It's going to be interesting to see how the first team offense does this week. It's clearly a transition. They're probably going to play around 30 plays, get a better rhythm. But, you know, that the offense is going to. I talked to John Elway today about this. The offense is going to be a work in progress, probably for the first few weeks of the season. I mean, it's not they're conceding that they're going to not win those games, but the defense is further along than the offense, and I think that could be a good thing, though. In Manning's first year in 2012, once the offense caught stride, obviously they were one of the best teams in football.
Well, you're an old baseball guy. The offenses aren't the offenses always
in
ahead
spring
of the
training?
defenses
Yes,
in spring training. So here, defenses are usually ahead in the NFL. But I have a theory, Troy. I'm going to throw this at you and Les. I think what we saw in Houston is more what they're going to do in the first few weeks. I think they're going to use. I don't think they're going to just go out there in the first 4 games, because they could be 4-0 or 5-0 to start the season. I think they're going to go into. You guys don't play golf, but no matter what you do on the practice tee, you always go back to what feels comfortable. Troy, is it possible that they will use a dominance of the Peyton Manning what we'll call the Peyton Manning offense for the first 4 or 5 weeks while they are transitioning?
Well, if it's keeping him on the field, yes. If it's a bunch of 3 and outs, then I would suggest they will be a little more run heavy, because the idea of Wade's defense, of blitzing, being aggressive, it's only going to be functional and work at its optimal power if the offense is on the field for a little bit. I mean, the 145 drives and 4-play drives are not going to be conducive to helping the defense. So I don't disagree with you, Woody, but like you saw last week, part of the reason they played 4 series is because they were going 3 and out. The plan was ideally they played 2 series and ran about 15 plays, and instead they ran 19 plays in 4 series. So, it just kind of depends here. I don't disagree with you, Woody, that they're going to try to no huddle and do some of that, but they're not going to stay with it if it's getting them off the field quickly.
Well, yeah. Troy, that brings up an interesting point then. Do you believe this defense is going to be a defense that can win this team more than a few games this year?
Yeah, I certainly see that. Now, it's preseason, so we temper expectations here, but Wade Phillips has a history of employing aggressive defenses. He also is known for adapting the defense to his personnel. And in DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, Shane Ray, Shaquille Barrett, he's got guys who can get after the passer and attack. And Malik Jackson is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league, and he's got a good secondary. There's no reason to think the way Wade's going to employ this defense that they shouldn't get shorter fields and create more turnovers. The only game I thought they won on their own last year was at Kansas City. DeMarcus Ware had a big turnover early. It was about 50 degrees below zero. The defense dominated. And Talib had a pick 6 at San Diego when they won the division title. Other than that, the defense was vanilla. I mean, they stopped the run, but they didn't consistently produce turnovers. So to answer your question, Les, yes, I do think this defense could win some games ugly, 17-14, 20-17.
Let's bounce around for a few players that we've talked about earlier that we kind of think need to show up. One would be Antonio Smith, and we still have that mystery hanging over there, but he really hasn't spit a drop, as I say, during training camp that I've seen, and particularly not in the games. I mean, what's the deal on Antonio Smith, as Jerry Seinfeld would say?
He's 34. I think he's the second oldest guy on the team, so camp for him is a little different exercise, that they don't want him going full throttle because he's making this team, Woody. So that's not the issue, at least everything I can read. And he's a niche guy on 3rd down. They're going to use him as a niche defensive tackle to go after the passer on 3rd down. So he should be fine. He didn't help himself, obviously, with his legal issues hanging over him. Missing all that time, he spent a better part of the first 2 weeks of training camp getting acclimated to the altitude. But they have time. September 13th, There's no reason to think in the niche role they're going to use him, let's say 30, 35 games a game, 30 to 35 plays a game. There's no reason to think he can't be effective right now.
Shelley Smith / Gronkowski.
And Ben Garland.
Ben Garland, I think, Troy, that Garland's going to go back to he's still got practice squad eligibility.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I don't see how Garland, as we sit here today, that he makes the team, unfortunately. It's a great story. No one works harder, but, he's to a point now he has to perform. And they had him at starter, and he's essentially fallen off the map in the span of 3 weeks. So, yeah, practice squad would be more likely for him. And it then raises the question, how many linemen are they going to keep? If they only keep 8, you typically keep 2 backup tackles. So Chris Clark and Schofield makes it. Maybe the last time he makes it, but he makes it. But now you go with Max Garcia as your swing guard. And Gino Gronkowski and Shelley Smith both are, they're in a fight for the roster. I still think one of them makes it, but depending on where they feel more comfortable with Max Garcia, the other guy could be out of luck. So whether, do they really believe Max Garcia can be a center and they trust that, then Gronkowski could be out of luck, or more likely they see Max as the backup guard at both places, so that could put Shelley Smith in jeopardy.
3 other players. Monte Ball, you addressed in the mailbag. Someone asked you from Dallas or someplace if there was a possibility of him being traded or cut. Les and I both feel like they'll keep 4 running backs and he'll be one of them. Your thoughts?
I think he is right now, but he has got to play well this week. You've got to show him something. To this point in camp, as great as Hillman has been and the way he has kind of burst, Ball has been the opposite. You can't even remember a play in practice where you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, he's had one good run for 12 yards, and then the other 11 runs in the game have gone for 18 yards. He has not looked comfortable in this scheme for whatever reason. Well, he has a tendency sometimes to overthink it, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Woody, that he can make the team. I still think he's going to make the team, but he's got to play well. I mean, if Bibbs comes out and has a great game, or Jeremy Stewart, at some point, Ball is, he's in jeopardy. He's got to show something. And he has, to this point, he really has.
Burrows, it's another draft choice.
Lamine Barrow.
Yeah, Barrow.
Yeah, he's on the bubble. There's no doubt. Because where he gets hurt is Todd Davis got plucked off the practice squad from New Orleans last year, and he's a shining star for them. They like his versatility. He can cover. He's a good guy in nickel coverage. He moved ahead of Barrow last year in a span of about a week, and that didn't speak well for Barrow. And Barrow hasn't done anything to distinguish himself in camp. And I would say the kid Anderson from Nebraska might even beat out Barrow. There's always one undrafted free agent, so Zaire Anderson, he could be the guy. But Barrow, he's facing an uphill battle right now.
Yeah, and there's another draft pick, Corey Nelson, there that shows some flashes occasionally, it seems to me.
Yeah, well, Nelson, he's shown that he can play a nickel package, and he runs really well sideline to sideline. So for me, I'm not the coach here, but Nelson would even be ahead of Barrow. Barrow just hasn't popped. Now, some of it he hasn't played a lot. There's reasons for that, but typically we would see a guy in practice jumping out, and that's like Zaire Anderson has jumped out. You're like, wow, okay, this guy's got a real shot to make the team, and it just you haven't seen those same kind of moments out of Barrow.
Final question. I haven't heard any talk at all, though. Out there watching it, what sort of impression do you get of the new San Francisco coach? I make kind of fun of his 3 names, but what kind of style are you seeing out of him? We kind of know what Kubiak's
does he
style
have
is.
a style?
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not a coach out of Central Casting. I'll say that. He's a little frumpy. He looks like an offense. He looks like a line coach, which is what he was. It seems like he's settled in a little better, but now you don't hear him screaming and yelling, and but he really, I hate to say it because I've only seen him for 2 practices, but he really blends in, which is not necessarily a trait you want out of your head coach.
I think we'll leave it on that, Troy.
Troy, appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
He blends in. How would you like that trait in your life? Les Shapiro, he blends in.
Yeah, thank you.
He's a jag who blends in.
They made a huge mistake with that guy. Huge mistake. All right, Troy came to us from Dove Valley, and all live guests are brought to you by Papa John's, the
Where's
official
our
sponsor
pizza this week?
of the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, we haven't had a
Jimmy,
pizza all week long.
you know,
We'll have pizza tomorrow because Nick Ferguson is coming in. All right, so let's remember to order some pizza. Former Bronco Nick Ferguson.
You can pick up a phone. What's your problem?
I can.